Good evening and welcome to Self-Care Tips, your favorite tips program, which gives you so many things that you need to learn about different things. Today we're going to talk about traveling. When you have to travel, what are the tips? The most important thing and rule for traveling is, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. This is because you need to fit in, you need to blend in, and you need to understand different people's culture. One of the greatest hurdles to travel is language, the language barrier. So if you're going to a place where language is not spoken the way you know it, it helps to learn a few key phrases when you're there. Because this way, people actually see that you're making the effort to learn their culture and their language, and they'll be more than ready to help you. One of the most amazing things that you realize when you travel outside Kenya is that we Kenyans are actually very, very friendly to visitors when they come to our country, but it's not the same out there. People are not as friendly as we are to them. So you have to overcome this barrier and learn to understand that it's not about you. Don't take it personally. It's just that people have their own ways of doing things, and maybe they're busy and they don't have time to chat you up or to listen to so many of the things that you'd like to know. Make sure that the airline you use is well known for locating your luggage wherever it may be. Try as much as possible to keep your hand luggage with some of the basic things that you might need in case of an emergency, in case your luggage is lost and you don't have it for another 72 hours. But of course, we need to be very careful with the threat of terrorism that has become a reality these days. Traveling need not be as difficult as it seems, as long as you have enough money, the papers, and a smattering of the language of the place that you're going to visit, and other things that you need to know, just general practical things. You will be okay. It's part of self-care.
Mbona una aibu ndogo hivi?
Bebe, basi ndio shida yangu kubwa hii.
Nani aliyekwenda kumwambia shemeji kuhusu mambo yako na Laba?
Nani mwingine kama si huyo dadangu alotoka kwenye ila visa?
Naona kama huyo Antipili ana mambo yake.
Kila siku mambo yanazidi kwa mazito. Yaani wewe huwezi kukaa bila kusumbua mtu, sio?
Najua yote ni plani yako.
A lot has gone down over the weekend, and trust that this is where you get all that tea. Following its success, Nvirio officially launched his latest album, Inside Out, at an event that was well attended by fans, family, and celebrities.
Your girl, as long as you're pretty, then we can set up a meeting. That's if you're lonely. Miss Young Mona Lisa with the class. Only do a last money to think about uka pass. Twende zetu sipige, twende zetu sipige. Jigo vijana wamesimama kwa, na mahasla wamesimama kwa.
And I'm live from Nairobi. I'm from Nigeria, Abuja, and I make music.
Candace, what's that?
I brought you a small bonus.
Bonus for what?
You got us 299 family dinners, 64 kisses on the cheek, 12 road trips to see grandma, 42 jokes from daddy, 49 laughs from mommy.
In over 60 years of dealing with numbers, we've learned that the numbers that matter the most to you are the ones that matter the most to us. NCBA Bank. Go for it.
A very good evening to you. Thank you for joining us this evening of the 17th of July 2023, a day when county assemblies are back in business as the members of county assemblies call off a 3-month strike over pay rise. The details of that story and much more are coming up during this particular bulletin. This is Prime Edition. Here are the highlights.
We are not calling off the strike. Kile tumefanya ni kwamba tumepatia Senate mwezi moja ili iweze kuwa ili tuambie progress. If at all there is no progress, definitely we go back to our strike.
County assemblies to resume sittings after MCAs call off a 3-month strike over pay rise.
Each and every Kenyan must understand that the solution to this situation lies not in military or grandstanding, but in dialogue.
Let us have a national dialogue, says Political Parties Liaison Committee over political impasse triggered by Azimio protests. And be gentle with us, Azimio's message to the police ahead of planned demos. Thank you for joining us. Prime Edition starts now. My name is Betty Kiptum and Lensa Odingo is my colleague on the sign language interpretation. Now, members of the county assemblies across the country have now called off their 3-month strike to pave way for investigations of their grievances by Senate's Devolution Committee. Through the Association of Members of County Assemblies, they have agreed to resume their plenaries in the Assembly, awaiting recommendations by the Senate. As Abdiaziz Hashim reports, vital bills including the county budgets that had stalled will be presented for debate on the floor of the various county assemblies.
Normal operations of the county governments can now resume. This is after ward representatives agreed to resume their sittings.
Kwa hivyo we are not calling off the strike. Kile tumefanya ni kwamba tumepatia Senate mwezi moja ili iweze kuwa ili tuambie progress. If at all there is no progress, definitely we go back to our strike.
MCAs were on a collision course with the Salary and Remuneration Commission SRC over their parks. A state of affairs that has now been remedied after the county lawmakers agreed to allow the Senate's Devolution Committee to investigate their grievances for only 1 month.
All assemblies zitakutana tena ili ziweze kuendelea mambo ya budget, mambo ya planning na mambo ya oversight. Ndipo tunasema tulisema kwamba pesa za MCAs zirudishwe pahali zilikuwa. Hii mambo ya tukata mshahara na umeona hii mambo ambayo tunakuja kuangalia ya oversight haiwezi fanyika mtu akiwa hana mileage.
Operations at the county assemblies had ground to a halt in over 20 counties. The MCAs in their demands are pushing for the salaries to be increased to 40% of the governor's gross salary, which stands at 924,000 Kenya shillings, raising their salary to 390,270 Kenya shillings per month. Currently, an MCA takes home about 144,375 Kenya shillings, which includes a basic salary of 86,625 Kenya shillings, a house allowance of 45,000 Kenya shillings, and a salary market adjustment of 12,750 Kenya shillings. In the review that will be implemented in 2 phases, MCAs will receive a gross pay of 164,588 Kenya shillings in the 24-25 financial year, which they opposed and termed an injustice. However, SRC chairperson Lynn Mengich has cautioned against the clamour for more money. She told the Senate Devolution Committee early this month that parameters for job evaluation criteria stipulated in the Constitution and the SRC Act 2011 are not based on a governor's salary to cap the pay for the MCAs.
We use job evaluation as a methodology to help us to assess the relative worth or the comparative worth of jobs in the public service.
Abdiaziz Hashim for Prime Edition.
And the Political Parties Liaison Committee wants leaders to resort to dialogue and end the opposition protests, which it says is hurting the economy. The committee is warning that hardline positions and protests can only plunge the country into turmoil. And as Nancy Okwari reports, the women of Kenya have also called for restraint among Kenyans during protests.
Various stakeholders are now worried about the trajectory the opposition protests are taking. The political parties liaison committee, for instance, is proposing a national conversation to end the demos.
We find ourselves confronted with a crisis that threatens our very existence as a nation. Each and every Kenyan must understand that the solution to this situation lies not in military or grandiose grandstanding, but in dialogue.
So it is incumbent upon the two leaders to help this nation heal. PPLC is ready to help do that because the 90 political parties, fully registered political parties, are concerned at what is happening today.
The committee appealing to the security officers to exercise restraint while handling protesters.
I don't know what he's organizing.
Meanwhile, the women of Kenya are expressing concerns that the protests are threatening to paralyze the already fragile economy. Under the auspices of Eco Network Africa, African Women Leaders Network, Women Mediation Network and the Democracy Trust Fund, the women are calling on Kenyans to think of the future of their country.
Admittedly, cost of living is high. As a result, Kenyans are hungry and angry. While we appreciate that all Kenyans have a right to picket, demonstrate, and assemble, we always remember that our constitutions provide that such actions should be carried out peaceably and that participants should be unarmed.
Nancy Okware, Prime Edition.
And 12 more bodies have been exhumed from Shakahola Forest in Kilifi County, bringing the death toll from the tragedy to 403. Coast Regional Commissioner Rhoda Onyancha in the daily briefing says a total of 95 people have so far been rescued from the forest. Additionally, 37 people have been arrested in connection with the aiding the preacher, who is Mackenzie, who is facing several charges of human rights violations, including murder. In other news, the Azimio coalition wants police to exercise maximum restraint while handling protesters who they claim are agitating for their constitutional rights. The opposition team alleges its protests are aimed at bringing down the cost of living and will proceed as planned on Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, and not laced with any political connotations.
Further comments by a few of us.
Speaking after a meeting that took stock of the planned demonstrations and the state of signature collection, the Azimio MPs remained defiant and they will hit the streets for 3 days in their push for the repealing of the Finance Act.
The thousands of Kenyans turning up for protests are not just Azimio supporters. They are Kenyans from across all political and non-political formations who have been brought together by suffering.
The MPs downplaying banning of street protests by Interior CS Kithure Kindiki, terming it as an attempt to subvert the constitution.
These protests will go on in line with Article 37 of our constitution, which, as you all know, provides for freedom of peaceful assembly and picketing. And no person, no authority has got the power to suspend the operation of Article 37 of our Constitution.
The legislators calling on police not to use force on protesters. It claims the protests are part of keeping the Kenya Kwanza administration on check after it abandoned its promises, while dismissing assertions that the street protests are proxy political battles.
Bring down the cost of living today. And you will not be on the streets on Wednesday, Thursday and Friday.
In Nairobi, we live as a community. Kikuyu, Luya, Jaluo, kila mtu hapa. Saa ile Jaluo analala njaa, Muluya analala njaa, Mkikuyu analala njaa.
Kenyans are past that stage. And since they lack imagination, Kenya Kwanza is the only political formation still thinking and talking about this handshakes and the rest.
John Jacob Curia, Prime Edition.
High Court Judge Lawrence Mugambi has declined to stop a petition seeking to block the planned opposition-led protests scheduled for Wednesday to Friday. In his ruling, the judge directed the petitioners to instead serve the respondents with a petition within 3 days and the respondents give a response in 10 days. The matter, filed under a certificate of urgency, will now have to wait a little longer after the judge set the mentioned date 2 months from now. More details in the Scales of Justice segment.
In a fresh twist, by a Kenyan by the name Martin Gitau had filed a petition to stop the planned demonstration by the opposition. In his petition, Gitau, through his lawyer Adrian Kamodho, argued the demonstrations were negatively affecting the economy and paralyzing emergency services. Additionally, he had sought to have the court bar Azimio allied parties from assessing funds from the political parties fund kitty. However, Justice Lawrence Mugambi ruled the matter will come up for mentioning on 21st September 2023, 2 months from now. He ordered the petitioners to serve the respondents with the documents pending the start of the case. Separately, these were the scenes outside Milimani Law Court following the acquittal of televangelist Gilbert Dare, who has been battling a child theft case for almost 2 decades. Dare, of the alleged Miracle Baby scandal, was set free in all the 5 counts of child theft after the prosecution failed to prove its case.
Number 2, the fact that the accused traveled frequently into the country does not necessarily infer that they had come to steal the subject children or abet crime. So that even if he went to his house upon coming in the country, that is not the basis to infer that they knew the children were in their house.
He says he has forgiven his tormentors.
For he has no squabbles with anybody. In fact, from what he has shared with me, he has forgiven his perpetrators.
I am not a criminal person. I'm born again, spiritual filled, and believe in Jesus Christ. In all the days of my life, I will serve God.
Elsewhere, 3 witnesses in the murder case of Sharon Otieno and her unborn child took to the stand. During cross-examination by Obado's lawyers, the second witness, an Airtel attendant, appeared to face difficulties in remembering events.
But how much money were you given? Okay, I was given 1,500 for transport. You know you are a hustler. You said you are a hustler. 4,500, you came to lie in court, correct?
And there was a light moment in the courtroom as the third witness, Kennedy Onyango Kasera, gave graphical details of the events on the fateful day.
Nikasikia tu mshindo na watu wananipita. Wanatoroka. Sasa nikabaki na mwenye ameingia kwa
The case continues on Tuesday. Migori Governor Okoth Obado, his personal assistant Michael Oyamo, and Caspiel Obiero are facing murder charges in the case. From Milimani Law Courts, I'm Ruth Wamboi.
Remember, you can interact with us during this broadcast at KBC Channel 1 on Twitter. My personal Twitter handle is at Betty Kiptum. Prime Edition takes a quick break. When we come back, more news. Stay with us.
Cheza Loto Moto. Sasa unaweza jishindia instantly na Loto Moto. Dial *570 hash. Wakati wowote, siku yoyote ya wiki na mahali popote. Dial *570 hash. Kisha chagua moja kati ya games za Loto Moto. Weka stakes zako 50 shillings, 300, 500, 2,000 shillings. The bigger your stake, the greater or the bigger your prizes. Cheza mara kadhaa na kumbuka, cheza responsibly. 18 years and above. Cheza Loto Moto.
A lot has gone down over the weekend, and trust that this is where you get to get all that tea. Following its success, Mviri officially launched his latest album, Inside Out, at an event that was well attended by fans, family, and celebrities.
Girl, as long as you're pretty, then we can set up a meeting. That's if you're lonely. Miss Young Mona Lisa with the class. Ulijua lazima nitajipa ukapasi. Twende state tusipige. Twende state tusipige. Tugo vijana wamesimama kwa. Na mahasla wamesimama kwa. Narudi nyumbani. So uelekaya.
And I'm live from Nairobi. I'm from Nigeria, Abuja, and I make music.
Sweet like cherry, baby come close, me we come close, me we come.
Welcome back. You are watching Prime Edition. Now, Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC, has summoned Kitui East Member of Parliament, Nimrod Mbai, to shed light over the incident where a Kenya Power and Lighting Company employee was assaulted in Kitengela. Mbai, who honored EACC's summons, defended himself and denied the alleged accusations. His case is yet to be determined by the court in Kajiado.
A complaint against me on an assault issue with some guy working at Kenya Power.
On Monday, Kitui East Member of Parliament Nimrod Mbai was at the Integrity Centre accompanied by his lawyer. The Member of Parliament was summoned by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission EACC over an incident where he allegedly assaulted a Kenya Power and Lighting Company KPLC employee in Kitengela, Kajiado County.
And I was summoned, that is to be sincere with what happened, by the EACC of an incident which happened a week ago. So they felt that there is some things they wanted to confirm about my conduct and the rest. So that's why I'm here.
The Member of Parliament denied the alleged accusation.
No, I never assaulted anyone. Yeah. Do I look like assaulting anybody? I'm a pastor. Yeah, a renowned pastor actually. Sure. Given another opportunity, I'll handle it the same way. That's me, because I can't change. It's Nimrod.
The MP, who is out on bond, awaits a determination by a Kajiado court.
And Information, Communication and the Digital Economy Cabinet Secretary Eliud Owalo says all government services will be available online before the end of the year. Speaking during or after signing of a Memorandum of Understanding with the United Nations Development Programme, Owalo said the ministry is working hard to ensure all Kenyans can access government services on a click of the button.
Information, Communication and Digital Economy Cabinet Secretary Eliud Owalo says the MOU with UNDP will help the government to drive digital transformation agenda.
This collaborative initiative is well aligned to our national development policy framework, our master plan. And we, in our view, through this partnership, will go a step further towards realization of turning Kenya into a digital economy.
He further said the partnership will also realize the digital economy strategy by enhancing skills within the public sector.
Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.
The CS said his ministry will continue partnering with diplomatic missions and other non-governmental organizations to ensure Kenya becomes a digital hub.
But in pursuit of our digitalization agenda, we look forward to stakeholder alliances and partnerships. This partnership with UNDP is one of them. We look forward to more and more partnerships with integral stakeholders so that we can walk this journey together.
He said the Kenya Kwanza government is focused on digitizing all government services before the end of the year to improve service delivery.
And let me state unequivocally that our digitalization agenda has got support from the highest echelons of government, led by none other than the President himself. He is our greatest agent in spreading the gospel of digitalization. So there is no going back. We have got commitment at all levels of government.
The CS later held talks with the Egyptian ambassador Wal Nasser Datia as part of the continual bilateral engagements to foster partnerships between the two nations. Engineer John Tanui, the Principal Secretary, Information, Communication and Digital Economy, who attended the event, said Kenya has a strong talent pool and the partnership will go a long way in creating digital jobs.
We are looking at how to unlock opportunities for our great Kenyan talent to access the opportunities across the world. The challenges you have is some of the strengths we have. We have a very strong talent pool and we are providing connectivity so that not only can they serve Kenya but serve the global market.
UNDP Regional Director for Africa Hauna Ezakonwa hailed the partnership, saying poor governance has greatly contributed to many countries in Africa remaining poor.
We need development to be accelerated and we need development to go to scale. And it's really not possible to achieve all of these four things without digital transformation. And this is why we are involved.
The signing of a memorandum of understanding between the Ministry of Information, Communication and Digital Economy and the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, indeed is a game changer in turning Kenya into a digital economy. Timothy Kipnusu for Prime Edition, Nairobi.
And the Ministry of Education will expand its school feeding program from 27 to all the 47 counties as it widens its net to retain learners in schools. The program, which has seen the ministry pump in 5 billion shillings, will be undertaken under a 50-50 partnership with county governments and donor partners. Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machogu and his National Treasury counterpart Professor Njuguna Ndungu said they will work closely with the devolved units to actualize the initiative for the betterment of education in the country. The two were speaking after signing a memorandum of understanding with Nairobi County Government, which has already set aside 1.7 billion shillings to support the program.
It's very important that children get nutritious meals for their growth and development. As a nutritionist, this is a dream come true because it will mean that all these children, every single day, they'll get fresh, nutritious meals sourced from our local farmers.
We have budgeted already, Waziri, Professor and Waziri Machogu, 1.7 billion shillings as a county government. The 1.7 billion shillings includes 500 for the remaining kitchens. The outcomes in terms of their mental health, because of the nutrition that our children are getting. We are fortifying these foods. We are working on the World Food Programme standards that we are abiding by, that are international standards.
This particular year, of course, we will be able to have many more counties being included and benefiting out of this program. Nairobi County being one of them. We are going to Nakuru, we are going to Mombasa. And as I said, progressively, as funds are made available, we will be able to cover each and every county of this country.
We are here in reality, so there could be resource scarcity, but what you do is to plan ahead of time. But we will make sure that we prioritize county funds, even if it means those county funds that are just first of all going to cater for school meals program.
Environmental stakeholders will focus on strategies that seek to unlock climate financing during the Africa Climate Summit Week. They noted the continent offers a range of investment opportunities that can promote local economic development. They have called for concerted efforts among Africa member states to create lasting solutions to climate change.
During the launch of Africa Summit registration website, officials observed that the inaugural Africa Climate Summit will create a platform that will design and catalyze change and action in order to provide solutions to climate change in Africa. The Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry Cabinet Secretary Soipan Tuya said that the summit will be momentous to Kenya and Africa at large, as it will provide an opportunity for leaders to address issues concerning climate financing debts.
Africa will be looking at the debt geometric progression and its effects on climate change interventions, including adaptation and mitigation. And the summit will, in many aspects, be a trade and investment summit on climate action.
The Africa Climate Summit unites the nations, regions, and continents, creating a climate action platform where every voice is heard. We have gathered here to embrace a collective action that knows no boundaries.
The leaders noted that the Africa Climate Week will provide a platform for policymakers and practitioners to exchange ideas on climate solutions, barriers to overcome, and opportunities realized in different regions.
Africa will be bringing to the world its immense resources that include the vast untapped arable agricultural land, its critical minerals, its renewable energy potential, as well as the carbon sinks.
This is the chance that you have in Africa because this industrialization is starting now, and you have the chance to do all these investments in a proper way.
So far, 3,000 delegates have been registered on the African Summit website. For Prime Edition, I am Teresa Mutai.
Retrogressive cultural practices like female genital mutilation coupled with gender-based violence are still a major challenge in many parts of the country. Speaking during the unveiling of a 2-day conference on women empowering women, Narok First Lady Agnes Ntutu noted to curb such vices, there is a need to enact laws and legislation that protects those who are vulnerable.
Battling gender-based violence, female genital mutilation and early child marriage dominated the Women Empowerment Conference scheduled to run for 2 days. While officially opening the conference, Narok First Lady Agnes Ntutu acknowledged retrogressive culture that continue to limit the growth of women and girls in the country.
This reality highlights the urgent need to strengthen legislation, improve access to justice, and implement comprehensive program.
There are these outdated old rituals and traditions. Once they are stopped, I'm sure we'll be good to go.
Imaginary Glass Ceiling Executive Director Jinata Kolia echoed Ntutu's sentiments, saying inclusivity and collaboration of both men and women is necessary in overcoming gender biasness in the country.
That in Kenya, like all over the world, women are feeling less than in so many ways. So I wanted to bring it here so they can see that they also can be empowered.
As the Kenyan women could be able to come up with initiatives like this and join hands together, collaborate with each other.
When you are authentic and in your space of power, you will unleash that power and you will see change all around you.
The Women Empowering Women program has recruited 10 women from the most affected communities who will undergo a 4-year mentorship program that will equip them holistically to be champions of change at the grassroots level.
Cultural norms have always dictated gender disparity, so there is need for both genders to work together to bridge the gap. Opicha Chemtai for Prime Edition.
Now, Mary Wanyonyi has vowed to serve Kenyans as she took oath of office as the chair of the Commission of Revenue Allocation. Wanyonyi, who was sworn into office by Chief Justice Martha Koome, was urged to serve Kenyans diligently and uphold the rule of law. Wanyonyi takes over the mantle from Jane Kiringai, whose tenure in office lapsed. The Commission on Revenue Allocation is a constitutional body tasked with making recommendations on the basis of equitable sharing of revenue between the national and county governments.
Having been appointed the chairperson of the Commission on Revenue Allocation,
therefore I urge you and the commissioners of CLA to always remember that, and as you undertake your mandate, the people of Kenya are the true owners of these resources. You have been chosen to ensure that the resources of Kenyans are allocated with the utmost transparency, equity, and prudence. And this is in accordance with the dictates of our Constitution.
I commit to upholding the independence of the Commission and to execute my functions in a transparent, accountable, and impartial manner. I pledge to work closely with all stakeholders to ensure that the Commission achieves its mandate. I assure you that the law will be my guiding principle and that no Kenyan will be left behind, as envisaged in the vision of the Commission on Revenue Allocation.
Wati Sub-County in Meru County, in collaboration with local administration and grazing committees from Garbatula, have recovered 28 herds of cattle. The cattle had been stolen from Kulamawe area in Garbatula Sub-County on 10th of July 2023. These and more in the county's roundup.
Julius Mbogori, the chairman Mutwati Sub-County Grazing Committee, said they're working together with security teams from Isiolo County to ensure that no livestock is stolen from both sides.
Sasa hiyo ng'ombe iko hapa mkononi na hata mwenye ng'ombe ako hapa na hakuna hata ng'ombe moja imepotea. Ilikuwa ng'ombe 28 na hiyo ng'ombe ilikamatwa katikati ya Kabache na Ndoleli hapa katikati.
Elsewhere, the government has been urged to ensure that beneficiaries of Inua Jamii Cash Transfer Program get their stipend on a monthly basis to reduce attacks on the elderly by their family members.
Ile kidogo wamepewa na serikali, tuache na tuwapee heshima na tuwapee amani wakikitumia.
It's a high time that we think about the security of the persons living with disability and the elderly in our society.
Meanwhile, Mombasa County Government, in collaboration with the National Lands Commission, has unveiled a land verification exercise which targets to recover lands acquired illegally, as they also seek to deal with land ownership fraud. In Kisii County, Gusii Water and Sanitation Company is reportedly incurring losses from non-realized revenue owing to the illegal water connections.
We urge members of the public that if in case you are consuming water illegally, please come to our offices and have your meter or your account regularized and you pay for the service.
And finally, members of Bungoma Bus Park management officials have distanced themselves from the nationwide protest set to resume on Wednesday. They've called for dialogue to resolve issues being raised by the opposition.
Na mtu mwenye anakuja kutugawanyisha hapa, tunataka kujua huyo mtu na amejaribu mara kadhaa na kadhaa, na yule mtu mwenye apendi amani, apendi wenzake waungane. Sisi tumeungana kwa one purpose na tumekuja kufanyia wananchi wa Bungoma kazi.
John Kahiro, Prime Edition.
Now to our weekly segment, The Cabinet. The banker turned priest served as Minister for Public Service in 2006. This week on The Cabinet, we focus on Reverend Moses Akaranga, who served in Mwai Kibaki's administration.
In 2006, he was appointed Minister for Public Service and is remembered for initiating performance contracting and the Rapid Result Initiative in the civil service. He also oversaw the review of salaries and pensions for the entire public service sector. It was also during his time as a minister when the old manual typewriters, broken telex machines and bulky cumbersome telephone heads in public offices were discarded. It helped greatly and oversaw technology modernization. For his able stewardship of reforms in the Kenyan public sector, Akaranga was the 2007 recipient of the coveted United Nations Public Service Award. He holds a Master's of Business Administration from the United States International University and a PhD in Strategic Management from the University of Nairobi. Akaranga was a career business administrator with a background as general administrator with the Pentecostal Assemblies of God. Aside from his sterling career in government, Akaranga was also a politician. He joined elective politics in 2002, making history as the first person and a newcomer at that to defeat a sitting vice president in an election when he defeated Musalia Mudavadi in the race for the Sabatia parliamentary seat. Mudavadi had been appointed VP in the sunset years of the Moi presidency. He also served in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs as Assistant Secretary, Deputy Secretary, and Acting Permanent Secretary. In 2004, he served as Assistant Minister for Agriculture. With devolution in 2013, he was elected the first governor of Vihiga County. He established the Vihiga County Community Empowerment Fund, a revolving loan facility for marginalized women, youth and small-scale traders. The core aim was to set up cottage industries through the provision of interest-free and unsecured loans. In the 2017 general election, he lost his bid to retain the gubernatorial seat to Wilberforce Otichilo. Jackie Wambiru, The Cabinet.
Mbona una aibu ndogo hivi?
Bebe, basi hii ndio shida yangu kubwa hii.
Nani aliyekwenda kumwambia shemeji kuhusu mambo yako na Laba?
Nani mwingine kama si huyo dadangu alotoka kwenye Aila Visa?
Naona kama huyo Auntie Billy ana mambo yake. Kila siku mambo yanazidi kuwa mazito. Yaani wewe huwezi kukaa bila kusumbua mtu, sio? Najua yote ni plani yako.
The show that keeps you updated on everything you need to know about technology.
Digital resilience is about organizations being able to continue to operate despite negative impacts that they've experienced.
The subject digital transformation, we keep talking about it, but very many people fail to understand that.
Twitter's removal of blue text is forcing accounts to find new ways to prove authenticity as concerns over copycats mount. At the same time, Elon Musk has given blue text to a few celebrities who didn't ask for one, such as writer Stephen King and Larry Madowo, for free.
Click on Tech every Monday at 10:30 p.m. on KBC Channel 1. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with Prime Edition. Time now to get the latest in the world of business. Now, countries in the common market for Eastern and Southern Africa should consider developing friendly tariffs for women-led companies. Industry Principal Secretary Juma Mukwana says reduced tariffs will assist women businesses offset liquidity challenges and increase their share in intra-Africa trade. The Trade PS spoke during the launch of the 3.2 billion shillings Women Incubation Program.
Experts say by lowering tariffs on women-led businesses will help deal with the recurrent financial constraints women startups face due to limited collateral.
One of the major holdbacks for women to be able to go into business is the financing. They don't have the collateral, they don't have a history of business, so they can't go to a bank and borrow.
To help women-owned enterprises in the regional market, the women business arm of the Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa says it's seeking to nurture 100 women startups domiciled at the Kenya Industries Research and Development Institute. To facilitate the training, the government of Spain has set aside 2.3 billion shillings to help train and capacitate women-led enterprises.
We will be launching a new program of 20 million, of which 5 million are going to be disbursed in 2023.
The 2.3 billion shillings incubation program will prioritize women businesses in the digital and agro-processing sectors.
It provides an opportunity for them to be incubated, for them to be helped to develop their ideas into business ideas.
Innovators will be trained on bookkeeping and financial literacy in a bid to formalize their startups.
To be able to integrate outside externally and take advantage of what we have available in the digital world. So that will be our main focus, and also in terms of digital literacy, finance literacy, that's also another focus we're going to have.
Industry Principal Secretary John Mukwana says supporting women businesses is part of the government initiative to increase manufacturing from the current 15% to the GDP to 20 by 2030.
When people think that manufacturing only requires raw materials or you only require a factory, but the truth of the matter is we need a lot of funding, we need a lot of training, skills, transfer.
The project will also be implemented in Burundi, Eswatini and Sudan. Benson Ruba reporting for Prime.
Increased taxes and the hike in the benchmark lending rate to 10.50% are some of the measures that the government is banking on to alleviate the pressure on interest rates to achieve fiscal sustainability and long-term financial stability. Central Bank of Kenya Governor Dr. Kamau Thuge says revenue mobilization remains a key priority as Kenya seeks to reduce borrowing and stabilize debt. Here is Trevor Ngendo with the details.
The rate of inflation has been at least 7.9% since June 2022, which is outside the government's medium-term target of 2.5% to 7.5%. To mitigate the risk associated with currency depreciation, policymakers at the Central Bank of Kenya have been increasing the benchmark lending rate from 7.0% in May 2022 to 10.50%, pushing it to an 83-month high during their Monetary Policy Committee last month.
We've taken the position as a central bank that we are going to be quite aggressive in terms of addressing inflationary pressures, and that's why we increased the CBR rate by 100 basis points, which was quite, in a sense, that was also catching up with some of the increase in interest rates that have happened in other countries. For example, the US. The US has raised their rate, their policy rate by 500 basis points.
Dr. Thunge says that going forward, the benchmark lending rate will be determined by inflation performance.
Come September, and we feel now the overall inflation has come down, food inflation has come down. The core inflation is also moving towards the direction of the 3% that I mentioned. Then we can revisit whether we might even lower the CBR.
He made the remarks during the launch of the Equity Bank's Kenya to DRC Investors Roadshow, which seeks to connect investors and entrepreneurs to foster trade. Equity Group CEO James Mwangi says abundant natural resources and emerging markets in DRC hold huge potential for investors.
We are now starting to see the market giving us huge opportunity. We are hoping that will happen to manufacturing. We are hoping that will happen to scale in all the other sectors. We can't deal with poverty in the world without rebalancing. And rebalancing can only mean developing Africa.
Businesses were challenged to collaborate in harnessing the potential in East and Central Africa to create a lasting economic impact in the region. The Kenya DRC Investors Roadshow presents Kenya and the East African region as a whole an opportunity to attract investors and strengthen regional ties, serving as a platform for Kenyan investors to pour more money into the country, creating more job opportunities, increased economic activities, and creation of new industries in the East African region. Trevor Ngendo for Prime Edition, Nairobi.
And freelancers are set to benefit from a digital skilling accelerator program by the Africa Digital Media Institute that seeks to equip them with technological skills to transition into new roles. ADMI co-founder and chair Dr. Leila Masharia says technological advancements have led to major disruptions in industries such as marketing, advertising, design, software development, and e-commerce, hence the need for upskilling to remain relevant.
We've been listening very carefully to employers who are telling us where they have skills gaps. They've told us that they need more product designers and developers. They've said that they need more people who understand design thinking. How is it that you design a product taking into account the users of that product and what their priorities are? We've been hearing that there's a need for data analysis. This ranges all the way from data-driven decision making, and this is where in every position now, people are being asked to analyze data and provide it to their employer or to their superiors in a much more organized, intuitive way. We're targeting two groups. There's those who are actually already in a career or in a job and want to either work to get a promotion, to be more visible, to understand some of the latest tools and tactics that you can use within a digital career. So for example, you could be a marketer who's interested in digital marketing and you want to understand what are some of the latest techniques people are using to create better marketing content. That could position you either for a promotion at your current position or to find another role outside your organization in the direction that you want to go.
And real estate developers have urged the government to provide incentives and help address the escalating cost of imported products brought about by the high cost of living. Fanaka Real Estate CEO Moses Murithi says the sector is currently struggling with rising cost of construction materials.
The feeling with most of us, Kenyans all across, is that now these things are causing the prices of each and everything to go up. Yeah, so people are feeling frustrated, and if there is a way government can work about incentives, cautioning when it comes to some things like fuel and so forth, it will help to ease and make it easier for me, labda mtu wa Kibada ama mtu labda wa Mjengo, me who is getting a small amount, because that has not changed. The salaries are still the same. You never go to somewhere and hear the employer has added any or increased the salaries. So the government needs to come hand in hand to ensure that Kenyans are cautioned from suffering or from that kind of feeling of frustration. And I think the government has all the mechanisms to be able to do that.
Cheza Loto Moto. Sasa unaweza jishindia instantly na Loto Moto. Dial *570 hash. Wakati wowote, siku yoyote ya wiki na mahali popote. Dial *570 hash. Kisha chagua moja kati ya games za Loto Moto. Weka stakes zako 50 shillings, 300, 500, 2,000 shillings. The bigger your stake, the greater or the bigger your prizes. Cheza mara kadhaa na kumbuka, cheza responsibly. 18 years and above. Cheza Loto Moto.
And you wore the necklace.
Yes, that was your wish. And you know I love to please you.
I'm very much certain that Olegario Montoya isn't the father of Fabiola, for her real father was Tulio, your brother.
It's now or never. Let's go, Fabiola.
Let's go.
Fabiola! Fabiola, come back here!
It's too late now, Olegario.
What are you doing? Fabiola! You stop right there! Las Bandidas.
Welcome back. The moratorium on mining licenses will soon be lifted to drive investments in the extractives industry. Investments Principal Secretary Abubakar Hassan says the government is keen on positioning Kenya as a strategic mining investment destination by drafting business-friendly policies.
We have a robust financial system and deep capital markets to facilitate, to enable your investment. But in addition to that, we have a co-investment program to de-risk your investment through our Kenya Development Bank, called Kenya Development Corporation. We have simplified our public-private partnership, and we have special or incentivized economic zones with fiscal and non-fiscal incentives to make sure your capital flows with ease and with returns on investments.
Because one of the things that really needs to happen is that whatever comes out of mining needs to develop mining further, because we have a great opportunity. And having had this, the aerial survey done in the country, we now have at least a stock of what it is that we have in the country.
The diversity of supply required to build robust, sustainable, and transparent supply chains will open the gates to midstream processing, digitalization, new processes and technologies.
And Enos Njeru is the new chair of the Kenya Tea Development Agency following the ouster of David Ichoho. A statement by the agency says Njeru takes over today ending days of speculation on the status of the former chair Njeru. The former chair Njeru has been a KTDA Holdings board member since July 2021, representing farmers from KTDA Zone 6, which comprises factories in Embu County. The appointment of Njeru comes despite a High Court order issued last week suspending the firing of Ichoho, pending the determination of a case he has filed challenging his removal.
In the last 2 months, the Kenya Tea Development Agency has been rocked by a vicious boardroom tiff, splitting the board of the tea agency right down in the middle. This has seen the creation of 2 factions within the board, one led by the ousted chair David Ichoho and the other one led by dissatisfied board members. Ichoho was appointed the chair in 2021 following the ouster of long-serving chair Peter Kanyagu after the recommendations of the Tea Subsector Reforms Committee. Earlier this month, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua told a tea conference in Kericho that the government is wary of the ongoing management tussles at the Tea Farmers Agency and vowed to institute the necessary changes to improve the management of the agency. A statement by the KTDA on Monday, July 17th says Enos Njeru has been appointed to replace David Ichoho, who resigned on Tuesday, July 11th, 2023. A statement from the new chair says once a new board has been fully reconstituted, it will champion a comprehensive tea reforms agenda by adapting to the changing environment to remain competitive and sustainable. Njeru is a certified public accountant with over 15 years of experience in finance management. He will be in charge of the agency for a period of 3 years. KTDA is owned by over 600,000 smallholder tea farmers in the country and control more than 80% of Kenya's tea production.
Businesses offering spa and wellness services will be required to adhere to the newly unveiled National Spa and Wellness Standards as the government seeks to rid the industry of unqualified service providers. Tourism Regulatory Authority Director General Norbert Talam says standardization will allow Kenya to tap into the growing spa and wellness market, targeting travelers seeking relaxation, rejuvenation and holistic well-being.
A stroll or drive across major towns and adverts of businesses offering wellness services are on display. This has been attributed to a focus on wellness. However, this niche has been infiltrated by unscrupulous service providers targeting unsuspecting clients. To stem this, the government has rolled out the National Spa and Wellness Standards to professionalize and improve the reputation of the value chain. This means all businesses offering spa and wellness services are required to apply the laid down guidelines. Tourism Regulatory Authority Director General Norbert Talam says this will fast-track diversification of Kenya's tourism portfolio to include spa and wellness services that has been infiltrated by unqualified providers. The global spa market is experiencing unprecedented boom, with travelers increasingly seeking wellness-focused activities and services during their journeys, whose travel niche is expected to hit $2.1 trillion by 2030 globally. Regina Manyara reporting for Prime Edition.
And that's the business this evening. Of course, sports news is coming up with Karen Kibet, who is standing by on the other side of the studio. Prime Edition takes a quick break. Don't go too far. Time to play after this break.
The stage is set for a showcase of global talent as Kenya hosts the World Rugby Under-20 Trophy for the second time from the 15th to 30th of July at the Nyayo National Stadium. This year's edition will see 8 teams battle over 4 match days for a place in the World Rugby Under-20 Championship in 2024. Catch the matches live on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Welcome back. My name is Karen Kibet. It's now time for us to take a look at what's making headlines in the world of sports. Now, the Kenya national under-20 rugby team Chipu is working on the errors that cost them their first encounter at the World Under-20 Trophy as they eye nothing less than a win against Spain. Chipu suffered a narrow 34-25 loss to Samoa in their opening match and placed Spain in their second tie on Thursday.
National Under-20 rugby team Chipu is focused on winning the World Under-20 Trophy despite suffering a narrow loss in their opening match. Kenya lost 34-25 to Samoa and now focus on the second match against Spain, which they must win. The team has put the loss against Samoa behind them and are working on sealing the loopholes that granted Samoa access to try line on their several occasions.
We are trying to brush off our mistakes and see how it will go against Spain.
Chipu expects a tough task against Spain, who led Pool B on 5 points, having thrashed Hong Kong 53-0 in their opening encounter on Saturday at the Nyayo National Stadium. The team continues to train at KCB grounds in readiness for the encounter before playing Hong Kong in the last pool match on Tuesday next week. This is the second time Kenya is hosting the event since 2009, when the tournament was known as the Junior World Rugby Trophy. The winners of the tournament will be promoted to the Under-20 Championship in 2024. Faith Akinyi for Prime Edition.
Thank you, Faith, for that report. Moving on, Kenya's Marceline Oresha has qualified to the second round of the ITF World Tour Junior Tennis Tournament after beating Uganda's Abigail Mulungi today at the Nairobi Club. In the boys category, India's Rahul Lokesh also progressed after overcoming Kenya's Brian Odingo 6-1, 6-1.
Kenya's Marceline Oresha proved too strong for Uganda's Abigail Mulungi, winning the match to progress to the next round of the ITF World Tour. In another match, Eritrea's Belen Estefanos defeated Betinjeru 6-4, 4-6, 6-1. In the boys category, India's Ashrava Mera overcame Kenya's Baraka Ominde 6-4, 6-love, while Uganda's Abdul Latif defeated Said Ganzel 6-1, 6-1.
It was nice. I think I played well. Like this tournament, I'm planning like my ranking now to go to have a good ranking.
The game was okay, but I could see a lot of improvement needed. This week's game was quite challenging compared to last week's game.
Meanwhile, the Kenya national under-12 and under-years tennis team left the country today morning for Kampala, Uganda, ahead of the East African Junior Team Championships that will be held from tomorrow to 22nd of this month. The girls will be seeking to defend their title, while the boys hope to clinch their first trophy since 2020. The team will face possible opposition from Rwanda, Tanzania, Burundi and Uganda in the annual competition, with the top 2 nations representing the countries in the Africa Team Championships. For Prime Edition, I'm Friend Jogu.
Thank you, Njogu, for that report. Now, the suspect who was arrested for possession of an illegal consignment of assorted medicaments being smuggled into the country will be arraigned in court on Wednesday. The suspect was arrested by Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya and DCI officers on Thursday at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport and until now has not been able to provide a permit or license for the prohibited substances that were found in her possessions. The seized consignment contained boxes of levosolbutamol, carvedilol and triamcinolone acetonide, all prohibited in sports by World Anti-Doping Agency WADA. Kenyan athletes have been in the spotlight in recent times due to rising numbers of doping in Kenya, with the country already placed in Category A. The government of Kenya, through the Ministry of Sports, has a zero-tolerance approach to doping in sport. Mary Moraa continued her exemplary performance at the Diamond League meetings, winning the 800 meters at the latest leg held in Silesia last night. Moraa was the only Kenyan to win her race in Poland. Other Kenyans, including Lilian Kasait, Abraham Kibiwot and Abel Kipsang, finished second in their respective races.
5,000 metres, watch the clock, 3:20 on the clock, he's closing on the line, Kipsang in second, the clock ticking away, it's going to be oh so close, 3:37.14, it is a new personal best, he gets down closer towards his goal.
Safely over the final barrier, it's going to be outside 8 minutes, but Al-Bukhari probably not too bothered. Will be a 9th consecutive steeplechase win for the Moroccan as he continues his quest to defend his World Championship title. And they do go away well. Svoboda with her normal fast start. Sharika Jackson in the middle trying to stretch away from Richardson. Richardson digging deep. Richardson coming good in the closing stages. And that is a big win from Shakari.
Michael Karanga played a final round of 68 gross in the 2023 Limuru Open to emerge the champion with an overall score of 3 under par 72 in the tough-playing Limuru Country Club course. Karanga beat a field of 49 players who made the cut to the final round of 96 players to emerge the champion. This is his 5th win in the 2023 Golf Series out of the 8 tournaments he has participated in. The win assured Karanga an amount of 108,000 Kenyan shillings. Nsubuga, who came in second position, took home a prize award of 55,500 shillings. Currently, 18 Kenyans are ranked in World Golf Series led by Michael Karanga in position 151 with 688 points. The players are gearing up next for the 103rd Coast Open Barry Cup that is set to be held next week at Mombasa Golf Club. Seven-time Ballon d'Or winner Lionel Messi was unveiled to a sold-out crowd of cheering Inter Miami fans last night. Meanwhile, Inter Milan goalkeeper Andre Onana is set to travel to the United Kingdom for medical tests and contract signing at Manchester United.
Number 10 in the world, Lionel Andres Messi!
A sold-out crowd of about 20,000 waited through downpours and lightning to see seven-time Ballon d'Or winner Lionel Messi given a number 10 shirt at his new club Inter Miami. The World Cup winning Argentina forward joins the Major League Soccer club on a deal until the end of 2025. He will be reunited with defensive midfielder Sergio Busquets, with whom he played at Barcelona, who has also signed for Miami until 2025. Busquets, too, was formally unveiled during Sunday night's event. Meanwhile, Manchester United are close to completing the deal to sign goalkeeper Andre Onana from Inter Milan as they make their second signing of the summer after Mason Mount's transfer. Onana is set to travel to Manchester to sign a 5-year contract after receiving assurances from United coach Ten Hag that the deal was on track to being completed. Ten Hag has prioritized signing a goalkeeper following the departure of David De Gea. In other news, Juan Cuadrado will join Inter Milan on a 1-year deal with medical tests scheduled to take place in the next few days. The 35-year-old winger is destined to leave Juventus after his contract expired at the end of last season.
And those are all the sports stories we had for you tonight. My name is Karen Kibet. I'll see you tomorrow with more sports news. For now, my colleague Betty Kiptum will be right back after this short break. Don't go too far.
Well, that is the news that we had to you to this night on Prime Edition. Of course, quite a sad reality that those doping drugs that were read by Karen Kibet, my colleague earlier, are coming into Kenya to destroy the sport that has been flying Kenya's flag high, that is athletics. We hope that our athletes stay true to the sport and maintain just clean diet, no doping. Well, from all those who made this broadcast successful, we say thank you very much for watching. This has been Prime Edition. My name is Betty Kiptum and Lensa Odingo has been my colleague on the sign language interpretation. Do have yourself a good night. Bye-bye.
Sasa unaweza jishindia instantly na Loto Moto. Dial star 570 hash wakati wowote, siku yoyote ya wiki na mahali popote. Dial star 570 hash. Kisha chagua moja kati ya games za Loto Moto. Weka stakes zako 50 shillings, 300, 500, 2,000 shillings. The bigger your stake, the greater or the bigger your prizes. Cheza mara kadhaa na kumbuka, cheza responsibly. 18 years and above.
Cheza Loto Moto. The future is hands-on, and Sensei College is at the front line of technical institutes in Kenya, offering practical and skill-based courses accredited by all concerned bodies, TVETA, NTSA and NITA. Sensei College offers driving and plant operator, cosmetology, fashion and design, mechanics, hydroponics and irrigation, installation, building construction, hospitality, photography and video production, electrical and electronics repairs, and ICT courses. Get free plant operator training when you enroll for plant mechanics, free driving when you enroll for motor vehicle mechanics, and free riding when you enroll for motorcycle mechanics. The requirement is an ID only, with intakes every first week of the month. We have 2 campuses in Nakuru and Nairobi. We provide meals and accommodation. Sensei College. My skills, my future.
The show that keeps you updated on everything you need to know about technology.
Digital resilience is about organizations being able to continue to operate despite negative impacts that they've experienced.
The subject digital transformation, we keep talking about it, but very many people fail to understand that.
Twitter's removal of blue text is forcing accounts to find new ways to prove authenticity as concerns over copycats